both sides are virtue signaling to their bases about, is it Blue Lives Matter? Is it Black Lives Matter? Is it
the mask?
Yeah, all of that stuff is in lieu of actually fixing the problem.
That's a good point.
And like libertarians have been talking about reining in abuses of police power for a long time. We've been talking about fixing the criminal justice system, and no one's doing it. They're just yelling. And unfortunately burning and looting and all the things that are happening, none of which leads to solutions.
Yeah, in fact, that you bring up an excellent point. When I was in Florida a few months ago, I saw a Joe Biden ad where it shows him deliberately like not just talking with a mask on. We want to make sure that you got the point. He's wearing a mask. And I swear that they showed him putting on a mask like 3 times. It was ridiculous. It was like a mask here. And I hadn't thought about that, but that's absolutely right. It's like, hey, this mask represents I can fix COVID.
Yeah. And like I'm surely Joe Biden knows that a president can't force everybody to wear a mask.
I don't think he does know that.
It's blatantly unconstitutional, but maybe that's a trite notion that the Constitution would limit his power, but.
Well, 1994 crime bill. I mean, he does like authoritarian power. I actually think he thinks he can do it.
Yeah.
I wish I thought. Usually, I do attribute things to ignorance as opposed to dishonesty or whatever. I think he really wants that much power. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and I wonder what institutional constraints there would be in practice. And they talked about this, and let's talk about this because you've actually been the only candidate running for president that has consistently been skeptical of one-size-fits-all government solutions when it comes to COVID, or frankly, virus management generally. And neither of the candidates have been consistent last night. And Joe Biden now apparently wants us to say lockdown forever. I don't even exactly understand his position. You like the bugs in our studio?
It must still be summer here.
Washington, the swamp. But,
yes.
But I didn't even ask you a question there. But so what would have been the appropriate response if you were president to COVID-19?
Well, the first one is to get rid of the FDA obstacles to getting the testing out there. Now, let me point out, if I'd been in Trump's position, the FDA obstacles would have been gone years earlier. But had I not gotten around to it yet, that would have been the first thing. And because we needed testing. How do we know who can go out and who can stay home? And the second problem was he stood there on the stage with Dr. Fauci and said, if you don't have symptoms, don't get tested. And my jaw dropped because I had just seen a survey that said something like, at the time they were saying something like 70% of the people, and I know the number changes, but at the time, something like 70% of the people with the virus show no symptoms. So doesn't that mean that you want to test more people? Because you could have it and be spreading it. And this was early on when we didn't know that much about the virus. So I think we need to do testing. And if you look at Southeast Asia, where they were able to test, they got ahead of the virus and they didn't have to shut down. So there were dozens of testing kits we could have been using that the FDA and or the CDC blocked and said no.